On my comic shot army, we're here today with William Quiton, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. And so tell us all the fabulous books you made and you're going to make. You told me right before we started filming.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've done, of course, a lot of tabletop role-playing books for through Sinopa Publishing, but for comics particularly, we're probably best known for 47 Furious Tales. Issue 1 through 3 are out. We actually just finished the crowdfunding fulfillment for issue 3, and we have shipped out to all of our supporting stores that were on pre-order on that. So we shipped 464 books for that Kickstarter between issue 3 and the other add-on books from issue 1 and issue 2, and then 740 copies to supporting order stores on pre-order. So it's been a pretty busy few weeks. And then we also have Reign of Ages, which is our fantasy adventure comic by myself and Nick Capone. We did issue 1 earlier this year, and we currently have a Indiegogo campaign that's finishing up for Indiegogo exclusive. That'll be finished on June 19th. And then our third comic series that we're putting out is Necroholic by Brian Lee. It's live on Kickstarter through the 29th of June. We are almost funded right now. We're about $150 short of goal. So I expect we probably be funded, if not this weekend, maybe Monday or Tuesday. That is an amazing book. It's a story of a lady who happens to have a couple of big problems in her life. One, she's a necromancer, and then 2, she has a bit of a drinking problem. And so we start off issue 1 with her coming to in a cemetery after a blackout drunk bender. And there's a lot of empty graves and a lot of zombies ambling about. So she has some explaining to do. And that series, again, by Brian Lee, I edit and publish that through my company, Sinopa Publishing. That is currently outlined for 24 issues. We aim to get the first 2 issues out this year, 2022, with at least 3 issues a year thereafter, and hopefully gearing up to 4 once we got Brian in a firm production process cadence. So we'll be putting out a lot of comics and still putting out a lot of RPGs. This year we will launch Reign of Ages issue 2 on Kickstarter in July. We'll be shipping that book in August, and then in September, we'll be launching Dungeons and Dames, which is a fantasy-themed art book project we're going to be doing every year. We did the first one last year. It was pretty popular. The project itself benefits the artists that we routinely commission. And so basically what we do is we put together a really killer art book, fantasy-themed for fans of tabletop role-playing and fantasy genre novels and stuff like that. Our artists contribute some fantastic pieces in that vein, and then we publish that book. And for the Kickstarter and the production run, we then take and we divide the leftover books after fulfillment between all of our artists, so that they all have these fabulous books to sell at their appearances for conventions, book signings that they do at different shops, and it makes a hell of a difference for their financial well-being. And then we've got Necroholic 2, and then Reign of Ages 3 and 47 Furious Tales 4 scheduled for later this year. And then, at least 10 books coming out in 2023 between those 3 titles and a couple others we have in development.
Do you sleep?
I sleep about 5 hours a night on a good night.
Okay. All right.
And I've got a day job, and I'm a single dad with my daughter at the house, and I do most of my work after 8:30, and usually call it a night about 1:30, and then I'm back up at 5 and 5, 6, whatever, and back to work.
Wow. Damn, you are busy. So
yeah.
Do you finish up one Kickstarter before you start the next? Like, do you ship out everything from the previous?
That's generally the plan. The Kickstarter did have a change in policy recently with regard to comics, so that you can they'll actually allow you to have as many as 6 campaigns open, and I think the reason being is that all the production delays where so many people print in China. We actually get around that because we've always printed in the United States. So, for example, we had books coming for 47 when we launched the Necroholic campaign. Necroholic campaigns end day like 14 or 15 as of this recording, but it was day 9 or 10 when we completed the fulfillment for 47. We were literally waiting on books about a week longer than we expected to, which is not really the fault of the printer. It was a problem with the company they used for shipping it. So we got most of that ironed out, but it was a bit of a tense moment when I'm waiting for a couple of thousand books to arrive, and they didn't show up. So that was a little nerve-wracking.
Has the paper shortage affected you at all?
It has. We normally use 130-pound cover stock for our covers. We absolutely have not been able to find any printers who have that, and our usual printer has been doing 100 and 110 for us instead. Okay. Which, yeah, saves us a little bit of money, but I really prefer the 130. Although there was an interesting side effect, especially for our bigger orders for retailers. The difference in the weight, well, in one comic, you can feel it a little bit, right? But when you're shipping a big bulk order to like a store or to a warehouse for a store that has multiple locations, that makes a big difference. So for one store, I shipped 180 copies. And it was a few pounds lighter than was originally calculated for the shipping. So it saved me a little bit on shipping costs. Just the difference in having 100-pound stock instead of having 130. But once the paper is available, we'll go back to 130.
Okay. And you do 70 inside?
80.
70 gloss? 80.
We actually use an 80 silk. And we've used 80 silk since we began making comics. In fact, we also use that now for the role-playing game books that we produce when we work. So we've been ordering it through the same printer now. Whenever we actually do a press run as opposed to like a print-on-demand release. And so it's an incredibly noticeable difference in quality. It really is. It's definitely a level up.
Oh, yeah. Who's your printer?
We do most of it through Mix'em, and then the shop that they print most of our stuff for is in Indiana. We did have some stuff that was printed in Canada on this run, and that I think was where part of our shipments getting wonky in the through the shipping company was kind of part of the problem. But most of it is through an outfit that's in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, Mix'em is a broker really, rather than an actual printing company.
That's cool that you print in the United States.
Yeah, U.S. and Canada always. We've never printed in China.
Yeah, I work for a printer myself.
We should talk sometime, then. We should definitely talk sometime, see if we can get some price comparisons.
Yeah, I could definitely get you in touch with someone that can do that for you.
Definitely, let's do that, because I'm always looking for high-quality printing, and I want to keep it in the U.S.
Yeah. Comic-Cons, where can we get news of where you're going to be? Or your upcoming Kickstarters?
Sure. I tend to post everything that we're going to be doing through our social media platforms. So we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Sinopa Publishing, Sinopa Publishing. And you can see what cons we're going to be going to, which we typically announce like a week or two before we go. This year, I had planned to be doing more conventions, but I got really sick in April. And so I'm expecting those medical bills to hit this coming week.
Yeah.
And so I canceled an appearance I was going to be doing at the Garden State Comic Festival, which was really unfortunate. I really wanted to go to that. And then there's a show in Long Island I was hoping to go to as well that I decided not to schedule because of that. There is a show that we're going to be at in October in Louisiana. I don't have the dates in front of me because they're still putting that convention together, but we actually got invited as one of the indie production companies for comics that we're going to do participate in a panel down there, and once we have the dates on when exactly they're going to have that, we'll be putting that on our social media channels as well.
Okay, cool. Are you taking submissions? Somebody has a book they want you to look at. Are you open?
We're actually not taking submissions at the moment, but we maybe start doing that later next year. Brian Lee is the creator of Necroholic. I've known him for 23 years personally, but even with that long-term relationship, I would have never published the book and put the Sinopa logo on it without it being top quality. And he blew my expectations completely away. He actually did a fantastic job on this book. Part of the thing about opening Sinopa was to be a vehicle for the stuff that I create, but I also wanted to grow into publishing other work. And we're focusing a lot on trying to get into more and more comic shops directly, because we don't distribute through, we don't market through Diamond or through any of the other distributors. We actually ship directly to stores. So the more titles that we have available, the more marketable we become to those stores. So right now we are in 36 comic shop retail locations across the United States. We're hoping to reach 50 by the end of the year. It's a slow going process. And then I do distribute also through Comics mainstream distribution in Oregon, where we're primarily carried in marijuana dispensaries, and then a few comic shops that they supply out there too. And that's on spinner racks actually, which is great. And so that company's owned by Adam Watson. He's actually expanding the scope of where they're placing comics at, and so we should start seeing in other retail locations, maybe even some places like gas stations and such in the near future. So we're really looking forward to having a much bigger presence in that market. And he and I talk a lot, and I know he has plans to grow into California, Washington, and Colorado, particularly targeting the dispensaries, especially, which is of interest to me with some of the titles that I write. Because 47 Furious Tales is very violent. Reign of Ages has a lot of violence in it as well, but there's also a little bit of nudity in it, very little bit. And so there's times when we can't really be on anything other than the very top shelf or behind the counter. But being in dispensaries and other locations like that affords us the opportunity to be readily accessible on hand.
I would imagine like dispensaries and comic books would go hand to hand.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. We have one of the dispensaries we're in. The first one we ever got into was Bigfoot Buds in Malala, Oregon. And they've been a really great location for selling 47 Furious Tales, particularly. And then when Reign of Ages came in, it's been doing pretty well there as well. I'm looking forward to Necroholic making it in those locations too. We did produce proofs that we then took. I don't know if we can show.
Nice.
I don't know if it'll show up on the backdrop or not, but this is the Kendall Gates variant that we're offering, and that's the Brian Lee cover. But we took these and then we distributed them to a bunch of our retailers so that they could make a strong determination and an informed decision on if they wanted to carry the title and how many they wanted to carry. And so we've been getting some really strong opinions about that, where people are really excited about it. I hope to be putting in some of our specific retailer tiers on the Kickstarter, hopefully at the end of this coming week, because like I said, we got about 11 days left. And then that way they'll go ahead and the ones that finalize that way will just go ahead and pledge there. Some will go ahead and just go ahead and pre-order it, and that's fine. The difference being the pre-orders will cycle out straight from the printer, and where it's not on the Kickstarter, they won't have the Kickstarter backer rewards for stretch goals and stuff like that. It's just straight books straight to the target. So it works out pretty well so far.
So the business side of selling your comic books to a comic shop, do they pay up front, or do they pay when they sell, or?
Right. We actually charge before I ship. So we're paid and then we ship. The thing is that we have a very, very appealing margin for comic shops. So we do have a minimum order quantity. It doesn't have to be a minimum of one particular cover or one particular title, but every shipment does have to be at least 25 books for a retail order. and then they actually get a 50% margin on that. So these books retail at $4.99, $5. They're paying $2.50, and that includes shipping. So the nice thing about this is that the our retailers are actually doubling their money carrying our books, which has been a really fantastic selling point. That and the fact that they actually sell. I know that some folks who follow us on Facebook in particular have seen that we have people from the collective in Altamonte Springs talk about us. They've actually now sold, or I should say ordered from us, more than 150 copies just of 47 Furies Tales issue 1. Okay, I don't have the numbers for 2 and 3 yet, but item 1 itself I've kind of been keeping a running total on, and that one location has had 150. The box in Leesville, I just shipped them 180 books, and then we've got places like the Hive in Texas, Cowabunga Comics, which I have to reach out to Kyle this week as well. Because I haven't talked to Kyle since in a while. They had a little bit of a fire in the place, and I kind of lost track of him for a bit. So I got to reach out to Kyle. Get some more books down to California, and then just these fantastic shops like that. Gotham Underground in New Jersey, Dewey's, which is in the basement of the Kubert School, basically. East Side Mags. Who else comes to mind immediately? Third Eye Comics. They've actually now got 7 locations. They're expanding all over the place. They've got in several different states. So it's really, really good to be on the shelf at their locations.
Wow. All right. I mean, but at $2.50 a book, you're still making a good profit and paying everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
So see, the Kickstarter campaigns that we run are not designed to make a profit. They're literally designed to either pay for art or pay for printing. And then our print runs are usually 1,500 units or higher. So our cost per book usually comes down. Before the paper shortage really started kicking us, we were paying on average about 80 cents a copy for books. And in some instances, for larger press runs, we were paying as low as 64 cents per issue. Now, even with a bulk order, we're still paying a little over $1 per book. And if it gets much higher, then we may have to adjust the actual end price to compensate. But right now, we're still able to hold to that $2.50 point with the $5 retail recommended price, and still make money on those shipments. So the key thing is being able to distribute cost, obviously. And so having the Kickstarter and getting everyone's books out to them first, they are the premier audience. They're the folks who get all the nice whiz bang add-ons and signed books and everything. And then making sure enough is printed so that we can get it out into the market has been the best decision I made in business as far as comics. My very first cover for 47, I made a huge mistake and only printed 500 copies. And I should kick myself every time I order a press run because of that. And I was told I was crazy when I ordered the second print run of 47 when I ordered 3,000 copies. But we have sold 1,900, I want to say 60 of that press run so far.
Nice.
Across the pandemic. We ordered it in late 2019, and then the pandemic struck, and we're like, there goes our shows. So it was a lot of catch up. But moving books is a lot of work, but it definitely makes it worth it. If anyone has, especially people who are doing their own art, if they have any question about how you make the money on your product, my advice is print as many books as you can and then sell them, because the money is in the books. I mean, if you're paying $1.25 and you've got 3,000, 4,000 books, and you're selling them at $5 or $6 at shows, I mean, that's a huge deal. And if you're selling 30 of them at a shop for $2.50 and you're paying $14 for postage, you're still making $12 on a box that you just packed up in a few minutes and shipped. And you're going to have more people reading your stuff. It's going to build more sales down the line. What's nice is that really the stores that I sell to, they're not one-time deals. They're continuous repeat customers. And so that's how any business succeeds.
Website. Do you have a website that we can pick up your books?
I do not have a website operational right now. I've been working on that in the background and trying to figure out how we can get a digital library for the users. So we don't have that going on yet, which is like my biggest shame right now. But we're hoping to have something up and running in 2023.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say before we go, William? I appreciate you talking with us.
Yeah, guys, make sure you're tuning in and listening to Cody, because he does some great interviews, talks to some really cool people. He asks good questions, and support his channel every way you can. As far as us, we are live on Kickstarter until June 29th with Necroholic, issue 1 by Brian Lee. The book is completely done. We are ordering the book the day after the Kickstarter closes, and we're going to be ordering in bulk so that we can get everyone taken care of. We will be shipping that book out to our backers in July. And I'll tell you this, I have fulfilled over 17 crowdfunding campaigns since 2017, and I'm looking forward to this being the next big one that I put out. So get your books and enjoy it. Comment on the campaign. Let us know what you think. We always love to hear from people who are reading our stuff.
Thank you.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comicchatauthority? Oh, come on. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.